really sure where this message is going to go. Got a few thoughts and a few verses. I want to start out in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers, for the fellowship hath righteousness with for what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with darkness, and what concord hath Christ with Belial, or what part hath he that believed with an infidel, and what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are the temple of the living God, as God hath said, I will dwell in them and will walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them and be separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and will be a father unto you, and ye shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. Now I wanted to start out with that because there's a lot of division going on, and there's certain amounts of division that is a healthy thing, and we're told to be in the world but not of the world, and that's an important distinction, especially these days when we see the world getting darker and darker. It doesn't mean that we separate ourselves off and don't have any contact with the world, but we need to guard ourselves with that armor that we do not fall into those temptations. And I wanted to talk about a hymn that I haven't. It's been a while since I heard it. Actually, I was thinking about it this past week. But I remember singing this hymn as I was growing up, in church, and there was always something that kind of bothered me about it, but it's also got a really good message to it, and it's this world is not my home, and I've got the first verse up here to it. This world is not my home, I'm just passing through, my treasures are laid up somewhere beyond the blue. The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. And then the chorus is, oh Lord, I have no friend like you. If heaven's not my home, then Lord, what will I do? The angels beckon me from heaven's open door, and I can't feel at home in this world anymore. And the thing that always made me think about, and I don't know why, but this always made me think about Lot's wife. Leaving the world, being pulled out of the world, but looking back. And that was the feeling that I always got when it's kind of like, well, we gave up, we're going to turn our backs on this world, but it was almost like there was a longing there for that world that was, and I think that there's a lot of parallels to right now, because we see so much changing, and we don't like change. Just to be honest, we don't like change. We like to get into a routine. We like to do our little same routine every morning. We like to do the same things in the same order. When something changes, it throws us all off. We just we're frazzled by it. So and we see this change happening right before us. So I want to ask a question this morning. Do you feel comfortable? Because comfortable is a dangerous place to be, especially in everything that's going on right now. If we're comfortable in the world today, there's a problem. And turning around and looking at that place where we came from, where everything's changed now, if we're turning around looking at the place where we came from and say, I'd like to get back to normal, get back to there, that's another thing that we have to ask ourselves. Do we really want to go back to there? Are we going to be satisfied going back to that world that was just a year or two ago? Do we feel comfortable in that world? So if we think about it, we come home from a long day work, and it's a comforting feeling to come home, isn't it? You've been on your feet all day, you've been doing this, you've been running here and there, and you've got all these stresses, and you want to come home. You want to kick your shoes off, you want to come in, you want to lock the door, shields down, drawbridge up, So, we come home and we want to shut the world out, and that's a comforting thing to be able to relax our guard just a little bit, because when we're out in the world, it's like all these darts being fired at us. But of course, there are things that can even be targeted in that moment by the enemy. But in that environment, the attacks of the world are diminished. We look forward to that time where we can just physically separate ourselves from the attacks of the world and take a physical and a spiritual breath. But in today's world, we see the attacks raging on truth, God, and those who follow Christ, and they're intensifying. It's no question. It's not just whisperings or sliding remarks made towards those. I mean, we've seen that in the past. We've seen, remarks made and all kinds of, things here and there, little slights and stuff like that. But, it's now grown into cutting those off who dare to question the norms of the day. This moving, goalpost that seems to never stay still, or what is acceptable, by the world. We see a discrimination in workplaces, media, and now, financial institutions. If you believe the truth over the collective truth of the age, you're not allowed to speak. You're not allowed to work. You're not allowed to do business with certain businesses. This is where we're at. So what are we supposed to do in this new normal, as people are calling it? So I want to go to 1 Peter. This is in the Amplified, chapter 2, verse 9. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a consecrated nation, a special people for God's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies, the wonderful deeds and virtues of perfections of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. Once you were not a people at all, but now you are God's people. Once you have not received the mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as aliens and strangers in this world to abstain from the sensual urges, those dishonorable desires that wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the unsaved Gentiles. Conduct yourself honorably with graciousness and integrity, so that for whatever reason they may slander you as evildoers, yet but by observing your good deeds they may instead come to glorify God in the day of visitation, when He looks upon them with the mercy. A time of opportunity, that's still here. So, I urge you as aliens and strangers in this world, and that's what the hymn was getting at that I brought up earlier. This world's not our home, and quite frankly, we can't dwell in the world anywhere. We can't find a spot, and it's been easy in the past 4 years to kind of find a spot where we can dwell. If we let our guard down, we could dwell there, and there's many people that have. And, and the thing that really bothers me, and, I'm not going to stay on this for too long, but, there's a conference going on, a speaking event going on in Florida this weekend, and the first thing that they did was wheel in a golden statue of Trump. And people were taking selfies with it, and the first thing that I saw atheists on different social media bring up was all the red hats worshiping the golden idol. And I thought, yes, I see it. I agree. I agree with that. I agree with what you're saying. I see what you're saying, because it is. It's like the Israelites building up them a golden idol and worshiping it. And we found a home there. We found a safe haven with this political movement. In the past 4 years. But we need to be strangers here. This is not our home, and there are higher standards that we need to stick to. And and I'd heard again this past week someone who was very close to the presidency, and was in the same room when President Trump said, I don't have anything to repent for. Why would I do that? So it's that same resistance to being humble, to repenting, to those things that we're guilty of. It's that same attitude towards authority. Just a lack of respect for authority and what God has done for us. So, I just wanted to say that, and for one time I can agree, with all these posts and these cartoons that were drawn from that golden statue being wheeled into that place. And it's a very dangerous thing, because I know there's a lot of people going down there that do have a heart for God, and I've heard them speak, but they were taking pictures of that statue, and I'm thinking, in your heart, you may have a heart for God, but what people are seeing right now, and that's what your testimony is. So, going on to 2 Timothy chapter 3, but thou hast fully known my doctrine, manner of life, purpose, faith, long-suffering, charity, patience, persecutions, afflictions, which came to me at Antioch, at Iconium, and at Lystra, what persecutions I endured, but out of them all the Lord delivered me. Yea, and all that will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution, but evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. And that's what we're seeing right now there, verse 13. The evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. So those who are already working the enemy's will here, they're just going to get worse and worse and worse. This is going to be an acceleration, an exponential evil that's coming upon the earth. And we see that right now. I mean, we can see the edge of this coming. It's almost like the floodgates are not even there anymore. All this stuff is coming in, and we're going to have to know how to stand in the storm, or we could be easily swept away, by a movement or anything else. So we have to be vigilant. In 1 Peter chapter 4, Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happens unto you. But rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Christ's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy, if ye be reproached for the name of Christ. Happy are ye, for the Spirit of glory and God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. We are told that these persecutions were going to happen. We shouldn't be surprised. We see it coming, and there's so many people that's like, I can't believe that. I can't believe this is happening. What kind of world are we living in? Well, a fallen world for an answer to that question. But we shouldn't be surprised at all. These things we're told that this is going to happen 2,000 years ago. I mean, this is stuff that was promised. In Matthew 5:43, ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. So we see how we're supposed to react, what our testimony is supposed to be to those around us, especially when we are in the middle of these storms and in the middle of these trials. That's the turning point of a lot of movies. You watch the movie and you see something happen. How's this person going to react to this? And that's what a lot of the reflection of character hinges on. Okay, well, this person's been a stand-up person, but let's see if this affects him. And that's exactly what the enemy wants to do. He wants to put you in that corner, see how you're going to react, and if you make the wrong decision, if you choose to go with your flesh, that's what gets broadcast on. That's on the front page of the newspaper. That's what gets broadcast out there. So, we have to be careful of where we're standing, where we're taking that stand, and which decision we're going to make, because it is a decision. It's not just something you're going to get blown into. I mean, the faith without works is dead. It's like you've got to step out. You've got to take action. This is something that's not just a spectator sport. We have to be involved in this. This is not something that is just going to pass us by and we're going to we'll be okay. This is something that we have to act in. So in Romans 12, and I don't have it up here, but Romans 12, verse 19, Dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give place unto wrath, for it is written, Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. So when things happen to us, when people, dogpile onto us as Christians, and I've seen plenty of this since November. We got to get them back. We got to do this. We got to do this. We got to do this. And there's a fleshly uprising, attitude that you want to. I'll show them. This is something that we've got to take care of. But like you said, God is in control. This is something that we're going through as a nation, as a culture. We're going through this for a reason. God has got everything under control. It's not something that we have to, in our own strength, try to get this train back on the tracks. We're not going back to normal. We're not going back to the way it was. This is going to be a new path that we're forging, but we have to keep it. We have to understand, and we have to let God handle this. This is not something that we can do in our own strength. So we're here to be God's light to a fallen world, and we have to realize that this is a fallen world. We're nothing in ourselves, but He shines through us. So, that's the truth. The truth shines through us that reconciles, and reconciliation hurts. And it kind of, when I think of the word reconcile, I always think of this video game. I don't know why, but I think of this video game, and it was Sim City. So you build these little towns in Sim City. Okay, I'm getting to it, but you build these little towns in Sim City, and you would focus on this one town, and you'd build it out, and it would be amazing. You go to the next plot, and you'd start building this other city, and it wouldn't match up. You would look at, it would zoom out, and you would have a mountain, and it would just cut off here, and it would say reconcile edges. Okay, reconcile edges. I hit the button, boom! It destroys that whole side of the city on there because it had to reconcile the edges to flatten it all out. I'm like, well, that hurt, But that's what it does. When you reconcile, there's things that's going to be burned up. There's things that are going to be cut off. I mean, it is supposed to offend. Reconciliation hurts if you're not in line with what His will is. It's supposed to offend. And so, in Hebrews 4:12, for the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. And so I mean, it's going to hurt. Whatever is going to hurt. Whenever you're reconciled to God's will, it's going to hurt the flesh. It's got to. If it doesn't, something's wrong. Something is extremely wrong. So 2 Timothy, and this is amplified, 2 Timothy 2, verse 20. Now in a large house there are not only vessels and objects of gold and silver, but also vessels and objects of wood and earthenware, and some are for honorable, noble, good use, and some are for dishonor, ignoble, common. Therefore, if anyone cleanses himself from these things which are dishonorable, disobedient, sinful, he will be a vessel for honor, sanctified, set apart for a special purpose, and useful to the master, prepared for every good work. Run away from youthful lust, pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace with those believers who call on the Lord out of a pure heart, but have nothing to do with the foolish and ignorant speculations, useless disputes over unedifying, stupid controversies. Since you know that they produce strife and give birth to quarrels, the servant of the Lord must not participate in quarrels, but must be kind to everyone, even-tempered, preserving peace, and he must be skilled in teaching, patient and tolerant when wronged. He must correct those who are in opposition with courtesy and gentleness, in the hope that God may grant that they will repent and be led to the knowledge of the truth accurately, understanding and welcoming it, and that they may come to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil, having been held captive by him to do his will. This is a hard standard to live up to, because your flesh wants to respond. in a certain way, you know, and especially when you're talking to someone who criticizes what you believe and criticizes God and what His Word says, you know. So, but in those times, especially in those times, you know, we must be. I'm trying to figure out where this. The servant of the Lord must not participate in quarrels. So, you know, this is kind of something that I've always wondered about, because there's people that love debate. They love debate. But debate is different than arguing. Debate is different than bullying and bulldozing people with words. So, you know, it is a skill, but, you know, we have to be kind to everyone, even in that debate, even tempered, preserving peace, and must be skilled in teaching, patient and tolerant when wronged. It's extremely hard to do, but this is what our testimony is. You know, in those times where we are in those corners, when we're backed into the corner and we're like, okay, I've got to look to something other than my own strength here. You know, this is something that we have to be aware of, that it's not our flesh that is going to get us out of this. It's not our flesh that we can rely on for strength. And, you know, and saying that, you know, I put this up a couple of weeks ago. Well, it's been a few weeks ago now, but the full armor of God. And I just kind of wanted to revisit this because I've been seeing this posted a lot of different places because and it's been used in different ways, but mainly because, you know, the storm that's coming, we're going to have this armor. We're going to have each part of this armor, because each part has its own attribute. You know, so if we're missing one piece of that armor, we're going to be overtaken. You know, what is all this armor without the helmet? You know, your main defense of your mind. You know, what is all the armor without the sword? You know, you have no way of striking. You have no way of separating that, you know, the wrong from the right. I mean, this is every piece of this armor is required, and, you know, and I still see people who are still hoping in this thing that they call the plan, this thing that where, you know, all this stuff from the past 4 months is going to be erased somehow, and I just, you know, at some point you're going to have to just move on. You know, this is something that happens in a fallen world. Things happen that you are not in control of, and you have to trust that God knows what He's doing. And this is probably a lesson that you're missing out on in believing these things. So we have to just remember that no matter how dark the world gets, that this is something that's completely under the control of God. He sets up who He will, you know, and no matter how it happens, there's people in positions for a reason, and He puts us in those positions for a reason, you know, and if we find ourselves in confrontation with someone, we need to remember that He's put us there for a reason, and we can go with our flesh, we can go with the Spirit of God and respond in that peaceful or even-tempered or patient way, you know, and it's hard to do sometimes. So, I mean, when someone's yelling at you, it's hard to do. So, we just need to remember that, and that's pretty much all I had. It was just more of a message to me that we need to stand. Just like you said, you know, the storm is here. You know, this is where we have to find our foundation. And stand on that rock, because if we're standing on the sand right now, you know, we're already losing our footing. So